Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studio in Cumming, Georgia, it's time for Forsyth Business Radio.
And hello and welcome to another episode of Forsyth Business Radio. I am your host, Amanda Pierce, joined in studio today by two community members, Jan Rooney, agent owner.
Say Jan Rooney State Farm.
Jan Rooney State Farm. And also Ty Keller, who is a licensed mortgage advisor for Angel Oak Home Loans. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan and I have been circling around each other for a while, so I'm glad that we're finally seated at the table together. Both of these guests today are both members of the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce, and we are active in the marketplace together. Actually, I met Ty for the first time at an Off the Beaten Path networking event, and Jan was always spoken highly of by my partner, Steve Cooper, and we finally connected the first time, I think, at Women Connect.
Yes.
Two very great events held by the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce. Before we get into our conversation, I would like to give you guys a chance to share a little bit about what you guys do with your businesses in the community. Again, I mentioned Jan Rooney is the agent owner of State Farm, and Ty is with Angel Oak Home Loans. Both are very booming businesses right now. So Jan, we'll let you kind of start off and share a little bit about your company, your experience within the community, and how you serve Forsyth.
Oh, great. Well, first, thanks for having me on the show. This is like one of my bucket list things is to participate in a podcast. So I'm just so happy to be here and to kind of be checking that off my list. But yes, I am the owner of Jan Rooney State Farm, and I opened 8 years ago, and with a mindset of helping to protect people's risk and really looking at them like a risk manager or being their risk manager for them. And by that, I mean, if something devastating happens to you, and whether you're in a car accident, whether your breadwinner doesn't come home that night, or whether you're ill and can no longer go to work, we have products and services that can actually make that devastation be less devastating to you on a financial standpoint. And it's really just about talking with people, educating them so that they can really fill those gaps that they may feel are unaffordable, or that they feel that, they just never knew there was something out there that could help them. So I'm really proud of what me and my team do. I have a team of 6 right now. And we just help. Our main focus is Forsyth County, Cherokee County, North Fulton, and Dawsonville. Those are the main counties we focus around to really help and get that word out.
And you are a resident of Forsyth County?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you're also a mother and a wife, and your children are in the school systems here. So the impact that you have with your business directly affects your life here in the community.
Oh, absolutely. And, and I look at myself as like a servant leader, and I wanted my company to be more than just a company that helps with that risk protection, but to actually give back. So there's a strong philanthropic side of what we like to do, and we do that through giving our time, giving our talent, and, giving financially to different areas around the community. And then one other thing that we participate in is what we call the Kindness Revolution, and we're the kind champion of coming in Canton, Georgia, to where we do kind student awards for local elementary schools. And I used to be a specific learning disabilities teacher a while ago, and it allows us to kind of go into a school and recognize someone for finding value in helping people versus finding value only in good grades. And as I always tell people, being that specific learning disabilities teacher, that there are people in school that are just brilliant, and we need those brilliant people in the world. We do. But then you also have those kids that can get lost, and their contribution is being that compassionate person, being that person who can be kind. So, everyone can be kind. And so that's kind of why we partnered in that way to give back.
That's very nice. And we will touch on philanthropy here after we bring Ty into the conversation. Mm-hmm. I love the name, the Kindness Revolution. I wrote that down so that we can speak more about it. I want to bring Ty into the conversation, and Ty Keller with Angel Oak Home Loans. I tell you, and I told you when we first met, Ironically, probably 15 to 17 years ago, my mom closed on a townhome in Noonan, Georgia, and Angel Oak was the lender.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah,
And I loved the name. That was very nice. So it kind of stood out to me. So share with our listeners a little bit about what you do, how you serve our community, and your enthusiasm behind serving your organization.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little background on me. I started in mortgage lending in 2008, which was probably the most bizarre time to get into mortgage lending. Didn't know what I was doing. Bought a house 3 months later. And then 3 days later, or 3 days before I bought my first house, Bear Stearns crashed. So I ended up being in that house and in that job for quite a long time, but I loved it. It was a great bank. Worked for a private bank out in Colorado, the second largest bank out there. Spent my time doing mortgages. And so I always tell people there's mortgages and then there's mortgages. There's mortgage lenders and then there's mortgage lenders. And so typically when you think of a mortgage lender, it's a 30-year fixed, Fannie Mae, FHA, kind of run-of-the-mill. It's the same everywhere. Well, certain banks and certain lenders have portfolio loans, which we underwrite to our own guidelines. And so that's kind of how I got brought up in lending. I was doing both types, but I had a product set that catered to people who are business owners, people who are investors, people who are buying commercial properties and different things. So long story short, I was there for about 12 years in a lending role for about eight of those years. I took a different position at our headquarters and kind of a leadership role, and then left there. My timing is perfect. So I left there February of 2020, right at the outset of the pandemic. So moved out here to Georgia to be closer to my wife's family, kind of get a new start. And then I got connected to another portfolio lender out here. And a buddy of mine said, hey, try to call Angel Oak, see what they're about. I think they're based in California. He's like, they're great guys. Turns out they're headquartered here in Atlanta, about 20 minutes south of the new house we bought out here. And so I went and had lunch with these guys, and it's same down-to-earth lending, just out-of-the-box common sense. And I found out they're the largest securitizer of non-QM and these types of portfolio loans in the United States. So I'm like, wow, I couldn't have dreamed this up any better. So that's what I've been doing over the last year. I've been with them. It's been fantastic. We really, as far as tailoring it to the community and helping the community, we really help business owners buy real estate. And that's a big thing if you're trying to draw business owners to the community. Sometimes it can be a real challenge for these guys to go get a 30-year fixed mortgage and actually qualify for what we know they're capable of affording. But on paper, we can't always show that on a Fannie Mae or FHA loan. And so that's where we come in. We get kind of creative. We can handle those deals. So,
Do you do commercial and residential, or do you specialize in one or the other?
So it's all 1 to 4 family residential real estate.
Okay.
And a lot of what I do, Jan and I were talking before we went on air, I help a lot of investors. Mm-hmm. A lot of lenders restrict the investment into, properties at 10 mortgages. So a lot of people, they can't own properties in their LLC if they get a Fannie Mae loan. And we don't have those types of restrictions. So a lot of what I do is helping people build sizable rental portfolios up to 200 rental properties. Wow. In some cases. So there's loans where we're not looking at their personal income, we're looking at the income from their property. So you don't have to go through tax returns and all that sort of thing. So it's creative lending. We can make exceptions. We can look at things in a different way. So I love it. It's what I'm used to. I've got that same kind of network and love being able to do what I used to do in this growing community. So. And
it sounds like you aligned yourself with an organization that shared in the same core values that you were looking to kind of carry over from your previous stint.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a national presence, and it was kind of cool to see that, hey, this is our headquarters here. And you walk in and it's, everybody's so down to earth. It's like, wow, we really are about, helping the client. We're not about ourselves. We're here to, really grow the community and kind of cover that gap that exists in the mortgage industry. A lot of people are underserved by how the mortgage industry is set up. Not everybody's, taking a pay stub home and a W-2. We got to really help those folks. So it's a blast.
I can imagine. And Ty is also a father, and he resides here in Cumming. He's a father and husband, and he has 2 doggies. Jan, are you a dog mom?
We do have 2 dogs as well.
Very nice. See, more in common here. Ty, why did you choose Cumming? I know you said that your wife's family lived in the area, so is that what drew you to the Forsyth County area, or was there another draw to the community?
So my first draw, if I'm being completely honest, was the lake up here, which is gorgeous. We grew up Well, for a few years when I was a kid, we had boats and had that lake experience. I remember that. I'm like, that would be awesome if my kids could enjoy that. And then found out that Forsyth, the schools are fantastic here. We looked all over Kingdom Come. Our poor realtor took us all over Atlanta metro area. I'm like, listen, let's narrow this down a little bit. Like, where would you help us, knowing that we have kids, knowing that this is our interest. We're coming from the mountains in Colorado, so we've got the mountains to the north of us, and then we just happened upon Forsyth and coming. And I feel like we totally lucked out. It's a great community.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And Jan, what drew you to the area?
So for us, it was a job transfer for me. So ever since I was 27 years old, I wanted to be a State Farm agent, but we have 5 kids that we were raising. So the deal I made with my husband is that when my youngest daughter turned 16, I would leave my career and become a State Farm agent. So with that in mind, and we lived in Florida at the time, they weren't appointing agents due to some Department of Insurance issues from a rate perspective and things. But so when we agreed to move and not appointing agents, they offered me this opportunity to recruit agents to the metro Atlanta area in Georgia. And so I went back and talked to my husband about it. And he was like, you know what? You've been waiting. Let's do it. And so we made this huge move with our family away from our hometown that we were married and grew up in and came up here. And we are absolutely just loving it. And that's kind of what brought us up here.
And you remained.
Yes. We will be here now till we pass away, I think. So we are enjoying it.
Well, the area is thriving and booming. I'm sure you know from the lending side and also with insurance. Economic development is on the forefront here, especially in the Forsyth County area. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing as far as growth in your industries and what you foresee maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, the market is changing drastically. Interest rates on both sides are increasing rapidly. If you are able, and I know you have certain, what are they called? Like restrictions. What is it? When CPAs, compliance. I don't want to take you out of any compliance, but from your personal and professional experience, what do you have to say about where the market's at today?
So I think for the insurance industry in itself, I think people are going to be seeing hardening of a market, which means rates will be increasing. But I think it's the reason why that it's increasing that over these next probably year or so. Like I think we'll get to a stable market sometime in 2023, at least from my perspective. And I say that because what's shifted is newer cars are on the road with newer technology. Before you could replace a bumper for $500. Well, now that bumper has cameras on it. It has sensors on it.
Yes.
And so now a bumper will cost like $2,500.
Yes.
But not only that, the shift of having more than 50% of those cars on the road with that technology versus those that aren't, mechanics now have to be certified to work on those cars. So the cost of helping those mechanics repair those cars has gone up. So as they got certified in those special areas, they now get to make more per hour than I guess even 2 years ago. And so with those changes, you're kind of seeing that area of growth and claim payment growing, which is what's driving the cost. And then you have more people moving to our area. And I just got to tell you, as someone who came from Florida, where we built our cities on a grid, which means all the roads were straight, they were flat. Mm-hmm. You could make a right turn, end up where you started. You don't have that here in Georgia.
No.
Like I'll be driving down a road when I first moved here and the road would just end. And I'm like, what? And so you have more accidents as more and more people are moving in. And to Georgia's credit, we are the number one business, growing businesses in the United States, which is awesome, which is bringing more and more people. Well, that's more and more new people. Yeah. More and more new people on our roads is causing more and more accidents. And so, we'll see a trend there. And then also just coming off the pandemic, driving lowered, and now driving is just getting back to pre-pandemic levels. And if you're fortunate enough, like all of our State Farm customers were fortunate enough to have, is, you were able to see some rate decrease during that time. Well, now it's got to catch back up. So all of that rate is causing some of the or all of that change is causing the rates to change. So I'm hoping we'll get to a stable market, but that's kind of what I foresee over the next year.
Thank you for sharing your insight. I definitely wrote down hardening of the market so I can look more into that. Ty, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess a question too. So, I mean, people, I think complain about their home insurance going up, but they sure like having their housing value go up at the same time,
value,
right? So,
yeah, that's a true thing. And I think that's just dealing with inflation and the cost to build, and that's part of the supply chain issue. And so definitely if you haven't checked with your insurance agent on your homeowner cost or replacement value, if they're calling to meet with you, meet with them, because you want to make sure that's in check. Mm-hmm. Not overinsured, but not underinsured either.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I was looking on Instagram before I got here, and a realtor friend of mine here in town, she posted something, and it was an email or as a text message exchange between her and another realtor, and she's like, "Hey, your clients seem to really like that house. What's going on?" And the response back was, "Well, I think we're going to wait and see what this monkeypox is going to be like, before we put it on." So I bring that up. It just reminded me as you were talking. I think there's a lot of people that are seeing what's going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets. People, if you want to get worked up about something, you certainly can. But I think the people who are still finding deals and buying real estate right now, they're taking advantage of a good opportunity. I think appreciation in values is going to not level off, but it's going to be slower than it was over the last couple of years. Because keep in mind, everyone was home. Everyone was putting away cash. There was a lot of stimulus in the system, and real estate never slowed down at all. And so I think, in the short term, we're going to see a little bit of slowing compared to what we did for the last couple of years. But, rates have certainly jumped up a little bit. And I think everyone is really saying they're kind of moderating. I can't really get too much into rates, but depending on who you listen to, Federal Reserve Board puts out their regular minutes on kind of what's going on with rates. And I honestly think that, I won't say the worst is behind us, but I agree with your point. I think we are going to see some moderation over the next year. And so typically when everyone is panicking, that means we're, in my mind, I think we're probably we're over panicked, and, things are just going to move on the way they have. And I'm putting this on air right now. And so anyone listening can tell me I'm wrong in a year if that's not the case. But, I'm still very optimistic. I like being able to solve problems in different ways. And so for me, I'm not really concerned about it. I think if you want to know what's going on in our industry on the portfolio and non-QM side, that's a piece that's really growing right now. If you look at...
Can you share with our listeners that might not know what non-QM means?
Yeah, I say that all the time. Too much jargon. I do that. But non-QM is a non-qualified mortgage. So basically what that means is if you have a qualified mortgage, if you just anyone's standard mortgage on their home, if you've got an FHA loan or Fannie Mae loan, a qualified mortgage is one that we're all used to. There's certain protections in place for the bank that says, hey, no, we as the bank, we documented your income well. We followed all these conventions for the conventional loan. We met all the ability to repay rules and all that's all in place. So there's a little bit of legal protection in there, and this all came out of the regulations that happened after the crash in 2008. And so that's a very, very good thing that we have that. So banks, if they want to sell loans on the secondary market, they need to meet those qualified mortgage standards. Well, if you have a bank that still wants to make those loans, still has to follow all the ability to repay rules, they just can't meet every single convention of those Fannie Mae guidelines. They maybe can come up with their own guidelines and still meet those income requirements. Those are non-qualified mortgages. And so that there's a market there. There's a gap in the industry where if you have private funding, maybe the government's not going to buy those mortgages, but maybe a hedge fund. Angel Oak has a $26 billion hedge fund. That's the amount of securitizations that we've had since 2008, I believe. So that's the growing market because things are tightening up on the conventional side. You're seeing Fannie Mae tighten guidelines and fees are going up and that sort of thing. So we're not skipping a beat. We're still going gangbusters on loans. It's just a larger percentage is becoming non-QM.
Thank you for sharing that. Because I myself, that's the second time you said that. I'm like, Amanda, what is a QM? So thank you for sharing. For those of you who are just joining us, my guests today are Jan Rooney and Ty Keller, and we are enjoying a roundtable discussion about a variety of things. One thing that you guys share is that you are sharp within your field, and you have to stay current on trends and continuously educate yourself in order to serve your clients, your families, and your communities. So back when I was working for the Fayette County Board of Realtors, when I was a young lass, we used to have CE courses. What types of credits do you need to maintain for your license, and how do you stay sharp? Ty, I'll ask you first. I know you listen to podcasts, and you just expressed that being knowledgeable is absolutely essential to what you do. So how do you continue to build your knowledge base and stay sharp to continue to serve your clients?
So you can go about it in one way. You could take time off on the weekends and just study by yourself and just lock all that away in your head. I'm not able to do that. You have to renew your license every year. So aside from all the CE credits that you have to go get a refresher on just to maintain your mortgage license, aside from doing that, what I do is stay up on rates. You know, we get a weekly brief from our hedge fund guys, the guys in our capital markets side, and they're telling us, what's going on with pricing in the market. But just paying attention. And the reason you do that as a professional, and this is kind of how I was brought up in this industry, is if you're talking to a client and you don't know any of that stuff, I mean, you have no credibility. If you don't have any opinion on that sort of thing, well, anybody could do my mortgage. Doing the mortgage isn't hard. It's filling out paperwork and getting that, getting the loan to closing. But the challenging part and the place where you add value is, being able to bring value to a client, like an investor. So for instance, a lot of what I do is I go to seminars on short-term rentals. I have a lot of clients that are interested in that. And if they're interested in it, I kind of want to be able to, talk with them about it and have connections in that community and provide value and be able to introduce them to people. And so I go to a lot of things that involve business owners and kind of understand what they're facing from a tax perspective. What are their biggest challenges? And so, just trying to get smart, and it helps me in my job. I think continuing ed is good. I think a lot of people want to do that, but and they need to do it. But do something in addition to your licensing that adds value to both yourself and to your clients.
And same to you, Jan.
Sure. So for me, I mean, we have those typical CE courses, and, some of those courses I do have to lock myself away on a weekend and just kind of pound through it. So I meet the regulation for the state to stay licensed. But I always approach it from an attitude of always be curious. And in that, what I mean is if something doesn't make sense to me, I'll try and dig a little deeper, whether it's searching on the internet or finding a mentor. And I have many mentors in many different ways who I don't even think some of them know they're my mentor, because I'll just stop and ask them questions, or when we're at an event, I'll start bending their ear. They'll say something interesting to me, and then I'll dig a little bit deeper to really understand. So I think having those mentors really helps with that. And then from the professional side at State Farm, I mean, I'm so fortunate that my company gives me so much support, and I have many, many connections at our company that if something isn't seeming to be right for me, or why we could be changing a direction, or why would a rate change or something, I have people that I can reach out to help me understand. And a great example of that is youthful drivers. If you have a child who has good grades, who takes the Georgia State driving course, and you spend 40 hours in the car, which, you're supposed to do before you go and get their driver's license, and spend those 40 hours in the car, you're positioning your child to actually be a safer driver. Well, State Farm gives them a very good discount for that. But what happens is, and I learned this as I was an agent, not as a mother or someone working for State Farm, but as an agent, because I had a insured who their child got in an accident. And we call it the steer clear discount, which is the driving of 40 hours that you train your child to do. As a parent, you stay in the car with them. That steer clear discount falls off. And they also they also are given an accident surcharge, and the rate goes up exponentially. And the reason it does that is because it moves them into a different rating category, not because they feel like they should charge more because the child was in an accident, but that young person is actually moved into a risk category where they're more likely in the next 18 months to be in an accident where they will be hurt. They will hurt someone severely, or possibly, do the unthinkable that we read about. And when that happens, it becomes a safety thing that I feel for the parent. And so once I explained that to these parents, and I had to learn that because I didn't really understand, well, why are we just changing that? I mean, it's already very expensive for our youth. So why does that change? But now when you look at it from that safety perspective, it's a way to give kids who are doing all the right things a break on their insurance, but then those that move into that risk factor, charging more, but trying to dig deeper and learn more about that. And so that's kind of how I've always approached learning more, where most agents may not even realize that's kind of what happens when kids are in an accident, and how they move into a really, I kind of call it the danger zone.
Right.
So then when your kid has a second accident, really start paying attention to, okay, well, what's going on? Are their grades slipping? Are they kind of zooming from here and there? Are they going where they say they're going? It really helps from a parent perspective for you to think, this is why I might have to step in here a little bit as a parent. And, and then it can actually save lives, from that standpoint. So for me, and then I like to read as well. If I can't get someone to give me the answer, I'll try and Google it. I'll find a book on it. And my husband laughs because we have all these books at home. And he's like, what are you doing with all these books? I'm like, oh, no, I'm reading them. He's like, how are you reading 10 books at one time? And I'm like, well, I like to find my answer and skim through it
at a time.
Yeah, my new favorite thing is Blinkist. I don't know if anybody's done Blinkist, but you can read it, which I like, because on Sunday mornings, I want to have some silence, so I like to read through it, or you can audio play it. So you got either or.
Love that.
And you can go through, it'll give you the highlights of different books. And so I've really been enjoying that. And since we're kind of going into a crazy market right now, a potential recession, I actually have been pulling books on stock investing, because I'm like, there might be an opportunity here for us to kind of reallocate some funds to where maybe we can take advantage of this, potential recession that we may be going in. So, and that's been like my favorite way to really kind of research and learn new topics.
I love that. And that's kind of why I turned to podcasting, Jan. I loved reading very much, but my schedule didn't allow me to spend as much time with literal text as I used to. So I started seeking out, continuing education, personal development on podcasting, just keyword searching. And I found a multitude of information and wonderful podcasts that kind of help keep me sharp as well. Mm-hmm. Ty, did you have something to add? I saw you taking notes there.
No, I'm taking notes on Blinkist and all that.
Yeah,
You're
I wrote
exactly
that down
right.
too.
Yeah.
Now, Jan, how many children of your 5 are drivers?
All of them now.
Oh, goodness. So that's really near and dear to you, the information that you shared, because it's firsthand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Ty, yours aren't old enough to drive yet.
No, a couple more years, so 8 and 9. A few more years.
Just a few.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're 8 and 9 going on,
21
19 and 20.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask you guys really quickly, because in both of your worlds, relationship development and referrals are very important. So what do you do in order to kind of get out there and move and shake and meet new people, aside from the chamber events, which we all participate in? Where do you find valuable relationships, and talk about the importance of referrals in your world, not only giving them, but getting them as well? And we'll start with you, Ty.
Yeah, so I guess my strategy with just meeting people is it's not necessarily a strategy, I guess, anymore, because it's just a habit. It's just finding out everything about them, finding out about their business and the types of people that they want to get in front of, and thinking in the back of my mind, okay, well, how can I help this person? And I'll come back and suddenly they're added to my network, and if I always ask, who are you trying to get in front of? What's a great referral source for you? And figuring that out. They'll reciprocate and ask the question, and I'll tell them, but a lot of times it's just natural coming about in different ways. And so, like, for instance, I'll run into a property manager, ask those questions. I got invited to a NARPM meeting, which is a property manager meeting all over the country, and got invited to a chapter meeting here a couple weeks ago, and just had some great connections just coming about naturally. So a lot of it is just, meeting business owners, staying focused. Everybody knows somebody. And I think sometimes you make a mistake is, I only want to go talk to this person. Well, that's hard, because then you're just, annoying a bunch of insurance agents all day long, or realtors all day long. And so just do it naturally and get to know people and establish relationships. And It's not about what they can send you. It's about what you can do for them, and just make sure they know who you are and what you do. I mean, you're not going to sell any mortgages. You're not going to sell any insurance if nobody knows who you are, if you're not involved in your community, if you're not volunteering, if you're not, being there to be a resource. And that's, I guess, the biggest way that my referral sources come about is people at least know what I do. The product kind of is what it is. It's a very niche product, so I do have something that kind of helps me out there as well. But, a lot of it, and then once things are established with a certain group, maybe it's a realtor group or an investor group, it kind of feeds on itself. Do a good job, and, you take care of other people, you'll be taken care of. So,
what percentage of your business would you say is related to referrals?
Yeah, I would say maybe right now, kind of coming to a new market, it's getting close to maybe half.
Nice.
So it's, I guess for being established in a market, and this is a new market for me. I've lived here for 2 years. So the goal is to, continue to build that up and make sure people know, what I do. But I'm licensed down in Florida, so I'm doing a lot down there. I'm licensed here in Georgia and Tennessee and Colorado and Alabama. So, and then we're all over the nation. So if somebody calls me from New Jersey and they need something, I can put them in touch with somebody who can help. So me, it's a combination of meeting people here in the community and then finding people through, LinkedIn and different places, just like at least knowing what they do and having a connection. So I don't like doing things unnaturally, because just if it feels weird, I don't want to do it sometimes. But it's, there's a line there. You want to step out of your comfort zone and maybe do some cold calls, but most of it's going to be from referrals.
In grassroots. I'll tell a quick personal story about how Ty and I first met. We have a mutual friend, Dimitri, who has appeared on the podcast before and who will be hosting a series called The Startup Factory here in the near future. But he just casually said, hey, you know what? I got a buddy named Ty. I think you guys are like-minded. You want to come have a beer with us? I said, sure. We came. I think Ty and I talked for like an hour, like off the rip, exactly like you said when you're asking me who is my target market, a little bit about my business. I'm going to put you on the spot here after Jan shares her piece about your passion project or your side biz, shall I say.
Sure.
And it was very casual, and it wasn't crunchy or mandatory. It was very friendly, and here we are, 8 months later?
Yeah.
Very nice. Jan, talk about the importance of referrals in your world and how you get them and how you give them.
Sure. So for us, and when we talk about referrals, actually with my team and everything, because we have a 50% close ratio for referrals. So meaning like if someone refers like Ty, you to us, and then you will let us quote you. And then if we do our job well, you will most likely change your insurance to us. And if at the very least you don't, you will at least take away things you need to go back to your current agent about and ask questions to, so you can be properly protected. So we go from the standpoint of you need to be referable. So do what you say, be good at what you do, be knowledgeable at what you do, and offer something to someone so that they will organically want to refer you. And then, so that's one way that we really grow to get referrals. So we get referrals from people we don't even ask of referrals.
Right.
They just say, oh, such and such has you. They said you're wonderful. We want to have you too. Mm-hmm. And then we're just like, okay, well, let's look at almost to the point where we have to remember that they're automatically going to switch to us, is what it sounds like, that we have to remember, oh yeah, our job is to protect your risk, and we have to find those holes to make sure you're properly protected. And then the other way that we do it is very much similar to Ty. I mean, we go out into the community, we try and find people who help. And if you work on my team, you really have to be a servant leader. You have to be someone who wants to not only come and do your job well, but find a way to help someone. And so we talk a lot about listening. You have to be able to listen well to understand what someone needs, so that when it's time to deliver that, you can help them find whatever that may be, whether it's in our industry, helping someone find a roofer to get a new roof on their house, or to help someone like you, Amanda, finding someone else to maybe come sit in this chair and do a podcast. When we first started, I said, this was like on my bucket list, right? Well, I bet there are other people out there who have this on a bucket list, and they're probably way more interesting than I am. And so I just really feel passionate that referrals can come organically. And then one more point I had to that is there's a person out there. Right when I opened my agency, I met him, and his name is Steve Beecham, and he's kind of a local celebrity around here. And he has written a couple books, but they're all about building those relationships. And his first book that I read was called Bass Ackward Business, and it is about building referrals. And and I just like him very much. He will check in on you. He will make sure that if you have some pain that he can solve, he will help you solve it. And that's who I want to be as a person. If you're going through something, I want to be compassionate towards you and help you through that. And in return, I think his goal is to be the first person to think of in his business, and mine is to be the first person that you think of when you're like, hey, you know what? I'm having this issue with my insurance. Who can help me through it? Not who can I change to have cheaper insurance? Who can help me through it? So whether I change or not, I gain value from it and can be better off for it. And I think that in itself will perpetuate referrals.
I agree with you 100%. I shared with you briefly, and I don't want to take up the time on the air, but I was recently involved in an accident, and it's a nightmare of red tape between my insurance company and their insurance company. And after 25 calls to people in a variety of different states, nowhere near me, I finally came to the realization that I want to place my business with a human being that I can speak to, that I can access, that I know, because that human element, that relationship, caring for your client, or empathy even, is something that I would like to put my dollars behind. Forget the rate, because the service and the human being behind the service is something that I desperately crave. And I think with the advancement of AI and technology is fantastic, but we have these third-party answering services. You get bumped from one line to another, etc. I mean, you really kind of lose the human factor, in my opinion, in some of the situations that you're put in both of your worlds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned about servant leadership a couple times, Jan, and you said something that sounds very familiar to me. Do you know Randy Brunson?
I do not.
No, I will happily introduce you.
Okay.
He's a dear friend and mentor of mine, and he always says, be generous with your time, treasures, and talents. And you said that in a similar way. I know that you are a Rotarian, and the motto is service above self. I think that both of you are exemplary of that. Talk a little bit about how you personally, both of you, or your organizations, because correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, Angel Oak does a lot within the community, how you guys kind of give back, or what you do to serve not only Forsyth County, but the community as a whole.
Sure. So for me, I like to say yes, and everybody knows that about me. And I was reading a podcast on reading through the Blink List podcast, how to say no, and what you can do to just calm down and make sure that this is something you have time to do, not something you just want to do and kill yourself trying to get it done and done well. That for me, I belong to Family Promise, and I serve on their board. I'll actually be president of the board next year. So this year in 2022, thank you. I'm vice president, and that's just something very near and dear to me. It's the one organization that helps people move from homelessness to homes, but we keep families together doing it. And why I gravitated towards that is that if you have a teenage boy and you need to move into a shelter, your boy has to be separated from you. And when you look at people who end up in prison at times, just imagine taking somebody going through a tough time, being critically, at that critical time, being removed from their mother. You're already preventing them from having, that guidance that they may need. And she may not have the best life herself, but she's trying to manage that and move forward through it, while a program can help them with it, but keeping them together. So I really appreciate that about our program. I love being a Rotarian. I took a picture today of the different charities, and we had a Rotarian meeting this morning of the different charities that we help. And it's amazing to me how this group of 100 people, we have about 100 and something, I can't remember the exact number in our Rotary group, but how we pull our dollars together and we all work towards this fundraiser that we just
Are you talking about the Derby?
Yeah, it was called the Derby. And we pull all that money together and we give back locally to our community. And I just love that. So I always sign up to volunteer on that. I always sponsor that, because it affects change.
Yes.
And then and I talked earlier about the kindness champion, and I won't go into more detail on that, but I just love bringing all that together. And I've just been kind of a roll up your sleeves kind of person to really get involved. And I just feel so fortunate that I was able to get my career to a point where I could become a State Farm agent. So I could dedicate my time, and I try and do at least 50% of my time doing that type of work in our community, because that's where you reach the people. That's how you find the people who may need our services, but they also need our help,
right,
in a different fashion. And so I get to connect people with that. And it's just, this area is so generous, coming from Florida, that it's just amazing to me how helpful people have been in that.
I missed Rotary this morning, and I too was a contributor to that derby, and I enjoyed it. I didn't see you there. Were you there in person?
I was. Well, maybe when you came in, I had to take a body break, but I was at
a body break. It was a beautiful day out that day.
It was gorgeous.
And it was a large property. So.
Yes, and I was at the registration table, so I was greeting everyone as they came in, except there was this 15-minute period where I had to use the restroom.
That must have been.
And my team came in during that time. They were like, "Is she here?" Because I'm stuck at the front. I didn't get to participate as much in the derby because someone had to volunteer and do that. But it was so funny. Oh, it was my pleasure. I was happy to do it. My husband couldn't make it that day, so I was like, you know what? Why not let another couple enjoy time together, since I'm going to be by myself? And then I got to do what I absolutely love, which is see everybody, say hello to everybody, except I missed a lot of key people during that 15 minutes. So
I had a hard time recognizing people in their derby attire, because, all these lavish hats and other, I'm like, oh, Carrie. Oh, Carrie. Yes, it's you.
It's amazing. We had over 450 people there.
What was, because I'm sure they shared what we yielded. What was the total donations?
I believe it was $125,000.
I knew it. That's fantastic. And Ty, if you're unfamiliar with the distribution, how many? You said about 10 to 12 nonprofits locally?
Yes.
And it's distributed equally amongst all of them. And it's a 100% give back. It's fantastic.
It's 100%
You'll have to join us next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We do it annually.
Well, I'll be a sponsor, so I'll give you some tickets.
Yeah,
so
I think Angela would
then
be
you'll
all
be
over
hooked,
that.
and then you'll become a sponsor.
And you get to dress up. You can bring your lovely wife, and she can wear a fancy hat.
Yeah, anytime I can dress up. I dressed up for a radio show.
Yeah, and for our listeners who cannot see them, they actually are kind of complimentary of each other in the colors that they wore, and that's totally by happen chance, because they didn't even meet before this show. I do want to plug Jan really quickly, because she's very active with the women's group that I mentioned, Women Connect. In addition, if you were at the Star Business Awards, the inaugural Star Business Awards, she was also a sponsor of that. So likely you've seen her logo and her beautiful headshot, because it's often flashed as a sponsor. And I thank you so much, because you make those events possible for people like myself.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Ty, talk a little bit about your enthusiasm to giving back to the community through your organization, or just solo.
Yeah, so, a couple recent examples. I know Angel Oak does a lot, and there's a lot of different volunteer opportunities that come up, and they're proud sponsors of this and that all over the community. I knew when I met these guys, these are the type of people that I'd want to work with and kind of hitch my wagon to, but just based on their character. But we've got a annual golf tournament at our church, and we raise funds for sending students to seminary. And so this is something we put on last year. We had about 80 golfers. I'm going to be able to go this year. We host at Chateau Elan. Great time. Come out and have a foursome. So I'm trying to rally a foursome. So I asked a few guys in my office, and my divisional senior vice president, I text him, and he was all over it. It took him 30 seconds to respond. He says, "Let me know if there's any other way I can help the church." And it's just refreshing to be around. You're exactly right, Jan. I think this community is so giving. I think the people here, they're we're well off. It's a affluent community, and I think it's just, I can't say enough good things about it. And so I'm on the board of our church, or on our council, and so I'm heavily involved there, and there's always something to do. I am the property guy, so that means I get to fix all the leaky things, or handle all the things that go wrong or broke or this and that. But I jump at the opportunity to that. I just felt privileged to be able to do something. It's you're getting that opportunity for a reason, if you know what I mean. So you need to jump at it. And so I'm looking forward to being involved in the community. Most of my connections to nonprofits and service have been out in Colorado, so I'm looking for that next thing. So,
well, we have a couple people
involved.
going on our family promise board, which might fit closely with yours. And
to be continued.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You guys, I told you I wouldn't keep you here for longer than 30 minutes, but we are at 45 minutes and I could talk to you forever. I would like to share a little bit of some fun stuff about you with our listeners. And Jan, I will let you hear me share this nugget about Ty, and then you can jump in with something cool to share. Ty and I, when we first met, that same it was Cherry Street.
Cherry Street, yeah.
He was sharing with me, we're sitting here in this beautiful studio. I got to give a shout out to Derek Brooks and Brandywine Printing because they provided us with all of our logoed items. Fantastic. And Office Creations because we're seated here at this board table. But as you can see, I purchased some foamy square things on Amazon, and I am OCD and they're not straight. And every time I look at them, they bother me. I need to bring a tape measure and a level. Ty has a creative solution to this atrocity, and I'll let him take it from there because it's a passion project, but it has to do with sound. Cue Ty.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we should really do something in here.
Tell our listeners a little bit about your handy work at home and how you can help this studio become beautified.
I think it's beautiful as it is. I don't think you need to change anything. But if you were interested in, different panels, I've been doing this for about 8 years, just kind of as a hobby. I created a small recording studio at home and was recording things at home. And this is back before everyone was, doing Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and podcasting and everything. But this is back before we were all doing Zoom calls and different things. But I was, recording music for fun at home and decided I would, buy a bunch of foam. And my wife gave me the entire basement, so I made this recording studio, and it just sounded terrible. So I read a bunch of books on audio engineering and figured out how I could make some of this stuff. And put it on Amazon, started selling them to my friends, I built a website and had kind of a small business going. And
no, but what are they made out of?
Made out of like high quality hard maple, like studio quality, wood. And so I've
very interesting.
Yeah, I've got clients here, in Atlanta, recording artists here. I've sold to people in Los Angeles and New York and Nashville. So it's kind of cool that I landed where I did. We're halfway between Nashville and Atlanta, but I can't be running my fingers by a table saw blade every single day of my life. So I'm going to, keep the mortgage thing going as the main thing. And that's a good way for me to serve. But yeah, I would love to.
So if you didn't quite get a picture of it, Jane, because he had to show me some pictures for me to fully understand. But apparently the wood and the way he repurposes it, accomplishes this. It achieves the same thing, preventing the reverberations of sound. Yep. Kind of explain a little bit behind the mechanics to someone like myself that wouldn't understand wood paneling absorbing sound.
So a lot of what you have in here is foam, and so that's going to deaden certain frequencies. And so what happens in recording studios is you don't want to take all the sound energy out of the room. You want a room to sound open and natural. A lot of times you want smaller rooms to sound bigger. Let's say it's a bedroom or a place where you're recording or having a phone call online. And so what these panels do is it reflects the sound energy back and it hits it. They're kind of ridged. You can go to our website. It's modernsounddesign.com, but it hits this, and there's calculations that make sure that this is actually correct, and it's attenuating the certain frequencies that you want. But and I'm using my hands to talk, and people can't really see this. But long story short, you're maintaining the sound energy in the room, and you're making smaller rooms sound open and more natural, and it just gives a little bit more less reflections and echoes in the space that you might normally hear. But this room sounds nice to me. And it's aesthetically
pleasing,
and it's beautiful. I think.
Well, I kind of stole your thunder by making that your cool fact, so I'll give you a chance to share something else cool if you'd like to share about yourself or your family.
I saw something that said, I live in constant fear of being asked for a cool thing about myself or a fact. No,
What's your favorite Chick-fil-A sauce?
Oh, shoot, barbecue.
Yeah, barbecue? You can get barbecue anywhere. Is it because Chick-fil-A's barbecue is so much better, or you're just like a true blue barbecue dude?
I don't know. That was the first thing that came to mind. Chick-fil-A is, every time I want to go there, it's Sunday. So
Chick-fil-A sauce? Okay, I'll let you have the barbecue. Jan, tell us something interesting or fun about yourself or your family, or Something that you like to do.
I have something that I'm really excited about, and it was so neat when I explained it to my husband. He was like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool!" And you and I kind of have briefly touched on it, but I kind of moved a little bit on it, and it's not fully developed. But you go through the pandemic, and then we're in political season, so there's lots of things, and then our country is so divisive. So there's so many things right now that aren't pleasurable to hear or listen to, or to really have a place to find out about people. So I bought the rights to a website that's called Living and Loving My Life. And I'm so excited about that because, when you think about how many people have mental illnesses and things because of what's on social media and things, to have a place that maybe you can go and just highlight just the regular Joe person because they are loving their life. And I'm sitting here listening, and that's like literally could be something that everyone fits into. So, because I'm looking at you and what you do just with living your dream, living at your radio world, and coming to go on this venture to give so many people a voice. I'm like, oh, that's so amazing to me. And then you, Ty, being able to, kind of live your dream of providing for your family through your mortgages in such a unique way, but then also, having, I call it his side hustle, with those soundboards. I mean, and it creates that beautiful artwork. I mean, it's so amazing to me. And then, for me, like being that philanthropic person who's kind of giving back and through these nonprofit worlds that have been so gracious to let me help them and use those talents there. And for my husband, it's for photography, like it can touch on so many different aspects that I'm just so excited about being able to bring something to people or have an avenue for people to find goodness, because we just need that. But I guess that's probably why I'm the kind champion of Canton Coming, because of that. But I'm super excited.
She said that low. She's the kind champion, for those of you that did not hear that. Humbly. But just so fortunate there. And then probably my most favorite fun fact is, I know you made it sound like our kids were young, but they're not that young anymore. We're kind of empty nesters now, and our kids are all productive, happy citizens in the country, which we're happy for. And we have 5, and they're all spread out. But our oldest and his wife, they're expecting their first child. So my husband and I are so excited. Congratulations.
We're going to be grandparents.
Yes.
I just can't wait for that to happen.
Exciting. And obviously you guys are dedicated to our future with what you do in your organizations, your community participation, and being family mothers and fathers as well. So I know it's very important for you what lies ahead. Mm-hmm. You guys, I wanted to thank you so much for spending time with us today on Forsyth Business Radio. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope that our listeners have found some value in our conversation. For those of you who did find value, we would appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. Maybe leave us a 5-star review. Jan, if anybody would like to get in touch with you and learn more about the State Farm services that you provide, how could they do so?
Yeah, they can go to janrooney.com.
janrooney.com, and let's spell that for those who might not be able. It's ROONEY. Mm-hmm. All right, and that's Jan with 1 N, JAN. Yes. And Ty?
Yeah, so we're angeloakhomeloans.com, and I think you can search and find my number, but,
go for it.
678-562-7174.
All right, and then we're going to end on one more. I'm going to put you on the spot. Leave a word of wisdom or a parting thought for our listeners. Everybody's crickets.
Yeah. So I posted this yesterday on LinkedIn, something that my company posted, just reminded me of it. It's I got a little paperweight years ago in a sales meeting. The guest speaker that day gave this to us, and I held on to it forever, and it still sits on my desk. It's an Einstein quote that says, "Don't seek to become a man of success, seek to become a man of value." And so that goes back to what we were talking about earlier today, I think, providing value to people in the ways that you're blessed to be able to do that.
I love that, Ty. Thank you.
And for me, I think because we're just in such a divisive world right now, I just really wish that everyone would kind of go back to that golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, and, be accepting of everyone. And just imagine what our city would look like, our county would look like, our state, our country. Our world. Yes. Would look like if we were all just accepting of everyone.
Thank you, Jan. And if you guys ever want to come hang out with us, our listeners, because we all hang out at the chamber too, any one of us would love for you to be our guests. And today, this was Forsyth Business Radio. Again, I was joined by our fabulous guests, Jan Rooney and Ty Keller. We will see you again soon. I have been your host, Amanda Pierce, and please follow along with us on social media to stay up to date at Forsyth Business Radio X. Until next time.